Couple in the villages shocked to receive a tower-sized water bill. Villager arrested after leaving Wawa with loud music blaring from his golf cart. Another illegal immigrant from Guatemala arrested behind the wheel after caught speeding. Aldi's to purchase all the WinnDixie stores, including all the ones in the villages. The street remains closed after the sinkholes. Deed compliance debacle prompts officials to invite Jennifer Parr to the next meeting. Villager enters plea in the fatal country club beating of fellow resident. No fishing signs going up at a pond attracting unwanted visitors in the villages. A seizure is blamed for the SUV crash on Buena Vista Boulevard. Village of Sable Chase sex offender jailed after failure to register. Mother in the villages warned to get son's hoarding under control. Village's never-ending pool project frustrates Bridgeport neighbors. Villager naked from the waist down arrested after crashing car at recreation center. This and more coming up. Let's have some more news. A couple of the villages were shocked to receive a water tower-sized bill. Jim and Nancy Makari of the village of Pinellas received a bill from the village utility department indicating they had used 201,230 gallons of water during the month of May. Their bill totaled $1,201.16. They wondered where the water went. During the entire month, we never observed any water leaks, standing water, or overwatered or wet lawn conditions, which we know would be present if that amount of water was placed on our lawn, said Jim. They had used 202,070 gallons over the preceding 12 months. In June, their usage went down to 12,990 gallons. When Jim Makari went on to have 9 conversations with the utility department. A flow test was conducted on the irrigation water meter, and it showed no problem. I spoke with Jacob's tech, and while the flow test showed no problem, he could not understand how that much water could be used in 1 month without some visual evidence being observed. I agree. The couple paid $163.71 to a landscaping company to perform a complete inspection of the irrigation system. The technician located no leak to our system and confirmed our irrigation timer was set to run 2 times a week for 35 minutes on rotors, 25 minutes on sprayers, and landscape drip line. The tech told me that based on the inspection of her many years of experience, there was no way 201,230 gallons of water could be used in 1 month without being noticed. At Monday's meeting of the North Sumter County Utility Dependent District, Director Dan Warren called attention to Makari's situation. Warren, a Village of Gilchrist resident who was president of the Waukesha, Wisconsin Water Utilities for 24 years, described for his fellow board members how much water the Makaris have been billed for during the month of May. You are talking about 200,000 gallons of water, which is the amount held by the water tower. It's because of a situation like the one faced by the Makaris that the NSC UDD board voted to adopt a revision of the board-approved unexplained high water use adjustment policy. Carol Slezak, who lives in a villa in the village of Virginia Trace, had gone round and round with the utility department over the bill for an unexplained 25,860 gallons of water. She claimed the utility department threatened to cut her water off if she didn't pay. The revised policy approved Monday by NSCUDD didn't bring her any comfort. It's water I never used, and you never told me how it happened, she said. This unexplained water bills seems to pop up every now and then for some reason. I will say this, our water bill went up a little bit. As you know, Sue pays bills, I don't. She mentioned it to me. She said for some reason our water bill went up. I said, how much? She said not by a lot, but she said it's $20 or $30 more than what I normally pay. I went to checking. The toilet in the master bathroom is starting to leak a little bit, and you have to listen. You don't even hardly hear it, but it'll just come on for a second, and you hear the water going in, and it shuts off. It may go an hour, maybe 2 hours, and did it again. Now, you figure doing that 24 hours a day for a whole month. I don't know how much water that is, but that's water I'm paying for it I'm not using really. So I needed to get a new gasket for that, but I know that. A resident of the villages was arrested after leaving Wawa with loud music blaring from his golf cart. Heath Nicholas Barnum, 45, who lives on the historic side of the Villages, was in a silver Yamaha golf cart at about 1 a.m. Tuesday when loud music was heard coming from the black boombox attached to his vehicle. Barnum had pulled out of the Wawa on U.S. Highway 27 and 441 in Lady Lake, and the music was audible from a distance of 25 feet away. That's the law now. Car, motorcycle, whatever. If an officer can hear your music 25 feet away, you're subject for a ticket. During a traffic stop, Barnum was found to be in possession of marijuana and a pipe, which tested positive for both marijuana and methamphetamine. The deputy also discovered that the New Jersey native had been banned from Wawa. He was arrested on charges of trespassing, possession of marijuana, and possession of drug equipment. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center on a $3,000 bond. An illegal immigrant from Guatemala landed behind bars after he was caught speeding. Alfredo Matias Fuentes Oranzo, 51, of Leesburg, was driving a gold-collared Ford pickup at about 7:30 a.m. Saturday in the area of U.S. Highway 27 and 441 at South Grace Airport when he was caught on radar traveling 57 miles per hour in a 50-mile-per-hour zone, according to the arrest report of the Fruitland Park Police Department. The driver had also made an improper lane change. During a traffic stop, Fuentes handed the officer a Guatemalan identification card and admitted he had been in the country illegally for 2 years. He said he does not have a Florida driver's license, and they will not give him one. You know why? You're illegal. He was arrested on a charge of driving without a license and ticketed for speeding. He was booked at the Lake County Jail and released after posting a $500 bond. His truck was towed from the scene. I find that this whole legal system laughable. Believe it or not, this week, I believe this is going to be the big story of the week. I really do. Remember I told you guys, you find a restaurant you really like, a month later you go back, or 6 months later you go back to find out that it was sold to somebody you don't even know now, and the restaurant's changed. Things are changed constantly. You almost can't even keep up with it. Aldi Nasset had entered into a definitive agreement to acquire WinnDixie supermarkets as part of a larger divestiture of Southeastern Groceries to various entities. The purchase is said to include the WinnDixie supermarkets at La Plaza Grande, Lake Sumter Landing, and Pinellas Plaza in the Villages. Aldi's has stores in Lady Lake, Trailwinds Village, in Wildwood, and Oxford. The Aldi deal also includes Harvey supermarkets, which are headquartered in Georgia. Like Aldi, WinnDixie and Harvey supermarkets have long history and many loyal customers in the Southeast, and we look forward to serving them in the years to come, said Jason Hart, CEO of Aldi. The time is right to build on our growth momentum to help residents in the Southeast save on their grocery bill. Oh, I bet you are. What else you going to have us do to work for you? Pack our own stuff, bring our own boxes, bring our own bags to put groceries in? I don't trust any of these people. They're all full of crap, every one of them. They're there for one reason only, and that's put money in their back pocket. That's okay, but I don't work for you, so I don't do self-checkout, and I don't bag my own groceries. You know, when I moved here, they had a grocery store I'd never heard of, in the South anyway, and we went there several times, and I can't explain to you why, but I really kind of liked it. It was called Sweet Bay. And they was one or two of them in the Villages. I know there's one at Lake Sumter because that's the one we went to because that's where our first home was at. And then WinnDixie bought them out. I don't know if there was something there before Sweet Bay, and now Aldi's is going to go in. And between them and Publix, I don't know. Publix is still pretty good for me. Are they the cheapest? Probably not. I've heard that from a lot of people that Publix is a lot more expensive to buy groceries there than elsewhere. But they're convenient for me. I like them. They're clean. They're very helpful for a lot of reasons. Like, remember coming south years ago, just got me thinking, whatever happened to the grocery stores? Like in Indiana, we had several grocery stores that disappeared. Marsh, a family name for years, gone. Down south, the grocery store you saw everywhere was Piggly Wiggly. I don't know if they're even still around. Are they? A street will remain closed indefinitely in the wake of sinkholes, which opened up earlier this week in the Villages. The sinkholes were discovered at about lunchtime Monday by a landscaper in the Glenda Villas in the village of Monarch Grove. City of Wildwood has backfilled the holes in advance of a geological testing. A spokesperson for the city said it is anticipated that the test results will be in the next week. Scardino Street, which is where the sinkholes were located, will remain closed for the foreseeable future. A villager was arrested after an alleged brawl with a woman after going out to dinner. Jean Dorothy Poltoric, 66, of the village of Poinciana, was arrested Tuesday afternoon on a felony charge of battery of a person over the age of 65. The arrest followed an incident which occurred at about 7:30 p.m. Monday in the villages. A 73-year-old woman said she and Poltoric had gone out to dinner, according to the arrest report. When they returned home, they got into an argument which turned physical. 73-year-old Poltoric used an open hand slap to strike her across both sides of her face. Woman said Poltoric also poured water on her. She had redness on both sides of her face. He was arrested, went to the Sumter County Detention Center, and released on a $2,000 bond. A deed compliance debacle has prompted officials to invite Jennifer Parr, vice president of the villages, to a future meeting. Paul Helbwick of the village of Hemingway has been caught up in a long-running deed compliance case. He claimed he unknowingly bought his home at 2577 Dunbar Avenue with landscaping that was not in compliance. He invested another $26,000 in landscaping but failed to get approval from the Architectural Review Committee. If he failed to get approval, that's nobody's fault but your own. He claims he had to spend another $10,000 to bring the property back into compliance. The property was not in compliance when I bought it. I made it look better. He was before the Community Development District 7 Board of Supervisors on Thursday morning asking for forgiveness of $2,600 in fines imposed at the time his property was not in compliance. Supervisors had sympathy on Helbwick because he had no idea he had been sold a house that was not in compliance. He asked for mercy from the board. I have a big problem that the house was bought out of compliance and the listing agent did not disclose that it was out of compliance. They do have a problem there. It's called truth and disclosure. Misrepresentation. I think there's a problem here. CDD7 board chairman Jerry Vicente agreed that the topic deserves to be on the agenda. We have to address this. How? I don't know, but it's a problem, Vicente said. He indicated that the issue will be placed on the board's agenda for October. Well, we'll keep following that and see how that turns out. Here's an update on the guy that hit another resident at a country club and resulted into the person's death. A villager has entered a plea in a fatal beating of an 87-year-old at a country club. Dean William Zook of the villages died July 16th, more than 2 weeks after he was attacked over a fender bender at Glenview Country Club. His alleged assailant, 75-year-old Robert Moore of the village of Polo Ridge, this week in Sumter County Court entered a plea of not guilty to a charge of aggravated manslaughter of an elderly person. He remains free on a $30,000 bond, although he initially indicated he planned to rely on a public defender's office for representation. Court documents now indicate that Moore has retained criminal defense attorney Matthew Ferry. If you want to get caught up on that, if you're new to watching the news here, you can go back to last week and the week before that. I try to do all the updates on cases like this to keep everybody informed. So he has pleaded not guilty and hired his own defense attorney. Community Development District 7 will post no fishing signs at a pond which has been attracting unwanted visitors. Last month, residents of the Allendale Villas spoke out about their concerns about the pond. It's located off of County Road 466A on the 8th hole of the Truman Executive Golf Course near Sumter Senior Living. Since last month's meeting, a little research has been conducted, and it was confirmed that the pond is owned by CDD7, and it already has been designated as non-fishing. Listen, as far as I know, all ponds on any golf course, fishing is not allowed. So they're going to really enforce this one by putting up a sign. A driver suffered a seizure moments before crashing his sport utility vehicle Thursday morning near Lake Meona Recreation Center. 35-year-old Leesburg man was driving a white 2015 Nissan Rogue at about 10:30 a.m. Thursday, southbound on Buena Vista Boulevard when he suffered the seizure and lost control of the vehicle, according to the accident report from the Florida Highway Patrol. He crashed into a Seco-owned light pole in the median of the roadway. The crash also damaged irrigation equipment. The man was transported by ambulance to UF Health, the village's hospital. Well, you should feel really good there. It's got a 1-star rating. A village of Sable Chase sex offender has been jailed after failure to register an address. Josefito Israel, 50, who lives at 825 Folsom Place, was arrested Wednesday by Sumter County Sheriff's deputies on a pair of registration violations. The Pasco County Sheriff's Office notified local law enforcement that Israel had been staying intermittently at a home in Holiday in Pasco County. He never registered the address where his red 2022 Kia Sportage had been spotted. Acting on information, deputies arrested Israel at his home in the village of Sable Chase. Israel was convicted in 2008 in Palm Beach County on charges of traveling to meet a minor for unlawful sexual offenses and use of a computer to lure a child to engage in sexual conduct. As a result of Wednesday's arrest, Israel was being held on a $10,000 bond at the Sumter County Detention Center. Such a fine, upstanding citizen living in a retirement community. A mother in the Villages has been warned to get her son's hoarding under control. Community Development District 5 supervisors on Friday expressed their frustration and exasperation with the long-standing problems at the home at 1889 Blythewood Loop in the village of Sunset Point. Barbara Packard lives in the home with her 37-year-old Jeffrey Charles Packard. Barbara Packard and her late husband bought the home in 2005 for $238,500 and were its original owners. Photographs introduced as evidence at the public hearing at Seabreeze Recreation Center shows grills, mops, buckets, and wire mesh, among other items, in the driveway of the Packard home. They've had trouble with this home for years. Packard, using a cane, detailed the challenges she and her son have been facing while trying to bring the property into compliance. You got to get tough with some of these people. She said their freezer went down due to the heat, and they had been busy grilling and smoking in an effort to save the meat which had been stored in the freezer. She also claimed her son had been busy trying to clean up the driveway, but said it's been difficult because of the extreme heat. That is true. I will go along with that part of it, but you've had years to get this thing straightened up. He's got dehydrated due to the heat. That's why he couldn't be here today. Supervisors pressed Packard on past allegations that her son is a hoarder, regularly collecting discarded items from villages' trash. You and your son are accumulating junk on your property. Your neighbors don't want to live next door to a junkyard. It's so unfortunate that you don't see what is happening with your son, said Supervisor Mark Wykirk. You need to have a long conversation with your son because he's getting you in a mess. He pointed out that the photographs showed multiple grills on the property. You don't need that many grills. He sees things on the road and he brings them home, Packard said. CDD5 has filed a lawsuit against Packard, and a hearing has been set for October in the Sumter County Court. CDD5 legal counsel Mark Briones said if the judgment finds the property not to be in compliance, an injunction could be ordered. If Packard does not comply with the court order, she could be charged with a contempt of court. It could result in jail time. Well, she is responsible for the property, even though she's not the one putting the trash out there. I sympathize with that, but he's responsible for that property. A villager's never-ending pool project is frustrating her neighbors in the village of Bridgeport at Laurel Valley. The home is located at 603 Wake Forest Lane, where a stalled pool project has become a neighborhood eyesore as well as a health concern. Stagnant water in the pool has attracted mosquitoes. Dust has been blowing into neighbors' pools, and trash has been overflowing from the dumpster at the site. A worker was also reportedly living in his car at the home using the portable toilet setup for construction purposes. Sounds like somebody went to Home Depot and hired a bunch of illegals. Neighbors voiced their concerns about the status of the home Friday morning before the Community Development District 8 Board of Supervisors in a meeting at Seabreeze. The homeowner had been granted a number of extensions for the project, which also includes a golf cart garage expansion. Neighbors said the extension has benefited the homeowner to their detriments. I wonder if she got ARC's approval for all that, people. She's not a neighbor. She's not living here. There's a lot more sympathy for her than a neighbor's living here with a mess from a 2.5-year project. Another neighbor alleged that there was not enough room to put in a pool, so rather than hiring a reputable company, the homeowner got a rogue company to build the pool. Amid the myriad of excuses, the work was stalled. Neighbor Marjorie Tracy said, and others are paying for the homeowner's poor choices. I am the neighbor looking at this disaster. I don't think you'll find a pool company willing to take this over. It's a nightmare, Tracy said. CDD8 supervisor admitted they don't have a lot of power in the case. Nobody ever has power to do anything around here. They got all these rules, and yet nobody seems to be able to enforce them. They put up a sign. That's it. Or they point a finger. Oh, you got to talk to that guy over there. They handle that. Oh, this is an inside deed restriction. You'll hear this too. That's an inside deed restriction, and that comes under the developer's rule. I have never heard of that. And I've asked for a copy of that inside deed restriction, and nobody's ever gotten back to me. A jealous resident of Villages was arrested in a break-in at her man friend's home. I always like that. Man friend. Jesse Lynn Parker, 29, who was living at 1014 Aloha Way on the historic side of the Villages, was arrested Wednesday night at the home of her man friend at the Harbor Hills gated community in rural Lady Lake. Oh, it wasn't at the Villages, Harbor Hills. She is facing a charge of trespassing because the trespassing charge is considered a violation of her probation. Parker was being held without bond at the Lake County Jail. Parker received a text from her man friend, and they met at a neighborhood in Summerfield, according to the arrest report. While the two were together, Parker became upset when her man friend revealed he has been in a sexual relationship with someone else. Parker hitchhiked to the man's home in Harbor Hills and let herself in the back door. Well, that's burglarizing. You weren't invited in. You can't do that. The man was alerted through video surveillance to her presence in his home. He used the intercom function to order her to leave. Deputy arrived on the scene and took Parker into custody. She has a history of arrest. Parker had been arrested March 6, 2022 when she was a passenger in a black Ford Mustang driven by her on-again, off-again boyfriend who had weapons and ammunition in the vehicle. A judge previously had issued an order forbidding Parker from having contact with the man after an altercation at his home. Parker had been arrested in April 2021 after violating her no-contact order by paying an early morning visit to the man's home. Criminal charges in that case were eventually dropped. He probably dropped them, didn't want to pursue it. He just wanted this nutbag to go away. I won't swear to this, but I'm going to put it out there. I think this lady lives on the other end of my neighborhood. A villager who was naked from the waist down was arrested after crashing her car at a recreation center. That recreation center would be our local recreation center down the road down here, Manatee Rec Center. Janice Jackson Tate, 68, was driving a white 2006 Toyota Solara at about 6:30 p.m. Saturday when she ran into the curb near the Manatee Recreation Center, according to the arrest report. Her vehicle had damage to the front end bumper, undercarriage, and driver's side tire. A deputy ran a license plate and found that the vehicle was registered to Tate's husband. He was found inside the recreation center, staggering and unable to maintain balance and wearing no clothing from the waist down, according to the arrest report. The Memphis native, who lives nearby at 1721 Mary Road, said she was heading home when another vehicle drove toward her. She claimed she swerved to avoid a collision. Probable. Could happen. Doubtful. The village's public safety department was called to the scene and checked her vital signs. They were within normal parameters. EMS provided Tate with a sheet since she was unclothed from the waist down. During the field sobriety exercises, Tate raised her leg in a martial arts stance, which was not in accordance with the instruction he had been given. She provided breath samples that registered .275 and .280 blood alcohol content. She was arrested on a charge of driving under the influence. She was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and released after posting a $1,000 bond. A speeding driver with a stolen gun and drugs was arrested at Applebee's restaurant in the Villages. Trevon Jacquard Samuels, 19 of Wildwood, was driving a vehicle which was caught on radar traveling 65 miles per hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone at about 12:30 a.m. Saturday on U.S. Highway 27 and 441 at Main Street, according to the arrest report. The vehicle pulled into Applebee's on Bouchard Boulevard, and the officer turned on the overhead lights of his squad car in an attempt to initiate a traffic stop. Samuels accelerated to a high rate of speed and continued to drive through the restaurant's parking lot. His vehicle hit the curb, damaging the passenger side wheel. A Glock 42 pistol was within reach of the driver. It was loaded with a 12-round magazine. A check revealed it had been reported stolen in Lake County. A black grocery bag in the vehicle was found to contain 15 grams of marijuana, 7 grams of cocaine, 26 grams of brown waxy THC substance, case, 19 pills identified as oxycodone hydrochloride, and a blue glass pipe. There was also $250 in cash in the vehicle. A check revealed Samuel's license was suspended. Samuels was arrested on numerous charges, including grand theft of a firearm, fleeing to elude law enforcement, and multiple drug charges. He was booked at Lake County Jail and released after posting a $38,000 bond. Samuel was arrested in 2022 after a pursuit that involved K-9 and helicopter. How much is this costing taxpayers? I read that because that's Applebee's in the Villages. It's just a good walk to downtown Spanish Springs on a square that this kid could walk to. Keep your guard up. That's all I got to say. A Honduran native who was distracted by a cell phone was nabbed for driving without a license. Kevin Amur Arguida Gomez, 26 of Ferreira Beach, was driving a black Mitsubishi SUV at 7:20 a.m. Sunday, traveling eastbound on County Road 470 towards 301. When he was trying to manipulate a cell phone and was apparently distracted from driving, according to the arrest report. During a traffic stop, Gomez told the deputy he was trying to set up his Google Maps. He admitted he does not have a driver's license and handed the deputy a passport. He was arrested on a charge of driving without a license and ticketed for texting while driving. A resident of the Villages has been jailed without bond after her arrest of new drug charges. Jessica Lynn Haggard, 39, who continues to list an address at the Tanglewood Villas in the village of Sable Chase, was being held this weekend at the Lake County Jail on charges of possession of fentanyl, possession of methamphetamine, and providing false information to law enforcement officer. She was taken into custody in Leesburg by Lake County Sheriff's deputies. Earlier this year, an 85-year-old villager with whom Haggard was living was arrested on a battery charge after an alleged altercation with Haggard. That case was later dismissed. Haggard was arrested on fraud charges in 2020. She was arrested in 2019 after she was caught dumpster diving in the Villages. I don't think they got a club for that here. A villager's daughter is headed back to prison after sentencing in a local arrest. Melinda Susan Philbrook, 48, a former resident of the village of St. Charles, earlier this month was transported from the Florida Department of Corrections to the Sumter County Jail. This past week, she appeared in Sumter County Court to answer to charges of drugs from 2022 when she was living with her mother in the Villages. Philbrook pleaded no contest to a charge of attempting to smuggle drugs into the Sumter County Detention Center. She was sentenced to 11 months and 22 days already served in jail. 2 other drug charges were dismissed in exchange for her plea. That's the update on her. Here's some more updates. A villager has been sentenced to 15 months in state prison after her 7th driving under the influence conviction. Donna Hanson, 63, of the village of Chatham, was sentenced earlier this month in Marion County Court. Hanson had been free on a $10,000 bond in a July 9, 2022 golf cart driving under the influence case when she was arrested this past June 20th after an intoxicated altercation with a man at her home. The prosecutor's office on June 29 decided not to pursue the battery charges because the man she allegedly attacked expressed his desire not to have her prosecuted. The incident exposed the fact that the native New Yorker had been drinking, which was a violation of her bond in the golf cart DUI. Prior to 2022 drunk driving arrest, Hanson already had 6 convictions for driving under the influence, including convictions in Broward, Volusia, and Palm Beach counties. Off to prison she goes. Tired of seeing villagers bringing their pets into the Publix grocery stores? Those days may be over. Publix has put up new signs at its more than 1,300 stores indicating that service animals only are allowed inside. That includes the 876 Publix stores in Florida. Publix points out that under federal law, service animals are dogs or miniature horses trained to perform tasks for people with disabilities. Non-service animals are not allowed in grocery stores by the FDA, Publix contends. Emotional support pets are not permitted in Publix. Misrepresenting your pet as a service animal negatively impacts the quality of life and independence for service animal users. Publix said in a sign posted at the door. The signs are new, but the policy is not new. However, the new signs appear to be evidence that Publix is ready to rein in the numbers of shoppers bringing their pets to the store. Of course, the big question is enforcement. Many complained that during the COVID-19 pandemic, Publix put up signs signs indicating customers were to wear masks, but there was little enforcement of the policy. Do you think it's time to stop bringing dogs into grocery stores? How many holes in ones do we have? Looks like we only have one. Villager Mark Carlson was all smiles after getting his third hole-in-one. Carlson got the lucky ace on August the 7th at hole number 3 at the Saddlebrook Executive Golf Course at 153 yards with a 5-iron. While it was his third lifetime hole-in-one, it was his first hole-in-one in the Villages. Well, congratulations on your hole-in-one, Mark Carlson. Let's do some letters to the editor. To the editor, those required to enforce deed compliance should convince the developer to require salespeople to inform buyers and sellers if a property is out of compliance, and compliance should not be complaint driven. Properties out of compliance should be reported by the Community Watch and acted upon by those responsible. That's sent in by Harold Bubine, the Village of Duval. To the editor, I agree there needs to be stricter rules regarding the painting of driveways, but there also needs to be stricter rules about political flags and signage. That's sent in by Rochelle Larson, the Village of Bonita. To the editor, why should there be restrictions on political flags? Flags properly displayed on flagpoles are allowed. Everyone should be allowed to fly a political flag of their choice. Other flags with inappropriate or vulgar language could be disallowed. That's sent in by Carol Hohenberger, the Village of Sanibel. To the editor, checking IDs is a joke. Gets worse every year. These idiots continue to bring their boom boxes for all to hear their music. We need to see police checks, and for sure the men in the white cars who just drive around and hide for most of the men in the white cars who just drive around and hide for the most part. It's a disaster and getting worse by the day. 10 years ago, all was good. Cars were checked, but not now. Many thugs are in our pools now. No IDs, etc. Boom boxes are everywhere in the pool areas. This needs to be fixed. That's sent in by Jack Knoll from the Lorne Villas. Well, you kind of get an idea of what other people's concerns are here. I try to give everybody a fair shake. So with that being said, I think that's the news for this week. And I thank everybody for subscribing, and I thank everybody for becoming a YouTube member or a Patreon member. This next Monday, it'll be another video. Next Wednesday, be porch sitting. If you've never done a porch sitting, please come to our porch sittings and join the crowd. There's plenty of people in there to talk to. You don't have to just talk to me and Sue. There's all kinds of people in there. They come and they talk to each other in the chat. It's fun, and we enjoy doing it. And next Friday, obviously, will be some more news. So with that being said,
don't leave your keys in the golf cart.